So hello everybody, thank you for joining us again on Spa Talk, where we have another episode of our Wellness Wednesday. And today we have the honor of talking with Dana Basten. Dana is a life coach and she is certified by the Life Coach School. She is also a flight attendant for a major US airline. I met Dana through my sister, who hired Dana to come and help me get over my fear of flying, which was a paralyzing fear. But Dana really helped me get over that. And I love it because she is a life coach that specializes in helping clients walk into their fears, walk toward their fear. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and what that means exactly. But anybody who's suffered with anxiety understands how paralyzing and overwhelming that it can be. So I'm really honored and just a joy to talk with Dana today. So thank you, Dana, for joining us. It's a pleasure to see you and to talk with you again.
Thank you for having me, Jeannie. I love seeing your face.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey from flight attendant to life coach.
Yeah, so to be completely honest, I'm someone who suffers from anxiety, and it used to be so overwhelming that it paralyzed me, sort of like you were saying. And some years back, there were a few different things that I was stuck on. I basically had this list going of things that I felt extremely stuck on in life. And I'd gotten therapy on some of these things and still felt stuck. And when I finally hired a life coach to walk me into my fear and into my blocks, I don't want to say cured, because you never get cured of anxiety, but I was finally cured of the cycles I was stuck in, the pattern that I continued to fall back into that kept me stuck, that kept me paralyzed from moving forward in those areas. And after that happened, I said, I have to learn how to do this. I need to know what you did to rewire my brain. I have to help other people do this because it changed my life so greatly. After I was certified and started working with clients, it became very clear that sharing my joy of travel and combining it with life coaching was a clear path to helping other people. And that's how we ended up meeting, is we got to walk straight into your fear of flying.
Yeah, we did.
And sometimes you were like, quit torturing me with this. But yeah, that's really the method that I learned, is to stop avoiding, stop trying to turn away from the fear and walk straight into it. And that way you can walk through it and come out on the other side.
Well, and I think that was what I learned the most, was walking toward it. When I was young, I read a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I couldn't tell you who the author was, but it's been a lifelong motto of mine. And that's really what you tell people, is to walk into the fear. And here we are in week 5 of this shelter in place with COVID-19, and we're all feeling a bit fearful. So what would you recommend for others who are struggling with the anxiety, or where the anxiety might be at a peak for them during this time?
So I have a very simple exercise that anyone can do. This is writing out your thoughts. This is something that I practice myself daily usually, but especially when I start to feel that fuzzy feeling that anxiety brings, that shakiness, I go, okay, I'm feeling anxiety. I need to sit down with my thoughts. Because as long as I try to avoid those thoughts, that anxiety is going to continue to fester in my body and feel uneasy and even build. So I take a moment to myself. I sit down with paper, scrap paper, my journal, whatever's available to me, and I literally dump my brain out onto that paper. What is running through my mind right now that I need to look at? I wouldn't mind giving my own experience with this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'd love it.
What's going on now? As we were talking, I fly as well, part-time, for part of my living. And when this all started, when COVID started, I knew about it because of travel to China. However, I feel like we hit this uncertain point last month in March where we didn't know what was going on. Right? Like almost when it started to hit and things started to shut down, people started getting sick. And I was at home for about a week, and I was supposed to be going back to work. I live in Phoenix. I work out of Chicago when I fly. I was supposed to be flying to Chicago to work. And I had so much anxiety built around it. And I finally had to sit down with my thoughts after just pushing it away for a few days. And one of my tactics is I try to crawl back into bed to sleep and avoid it. And I'll spend my day in bed. But I'm like, okay, I can spend my day in bed, and every day I'll wake up with anxiety and I can try the same cycle of getting myself back into bed to try to avoid it, or I can try to break it today. I can walk into whatever I'm feeling, the anxiety. I sat down and started writing what I was worried about. I was worried about flying to Chicago and having a ground stop and not being able to get home to Phoenix. I was worried about getting on a plane with people who potentially had been flying and been exposed to the virus and catching the virus. I just made a list of all of those thoughts. And this sounds so simple, and it really is. Something about, and you can probably attest to this, something about seeing that list in front of you, seeing those thoughts in front of you instead of in your brain wreaking havoc back here. Looking at that list is the first step to walking into fear. Getting very honest about what's going on in my head that's causing this feeling. Yeah. And seeing it outside your mind, for me at least, immediately takes the anxiety down a notch. This is no longer something that's building inside of me. It's something on this paper that I'm looking at now.
There's something psychologically right about that. After we had our experience, I started writing things down. I started keeping a notepad by my bed because you had me do that exercise, and it was really, really helpful because it forces you to really look at, if you're honest, and this is something where you really have to allow yourself to be honest, writing down those fears and those thoughts. And so I find myself at 2 or 3 in the morning when I can't sleep, I write those things down. So it's right by my bedside. I just keep a little journal next to me, and sometimes I wake up in the morning. What did I write? Because I often abbreviate things in the middle of the night. But there's something that's very therapeutic about just getting it out of my head and onto a piece of paper. It's almost like it's removing it from me. I don't, I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know what the process is.
And I think that is exactly where the calm comes from surrounding this, is when it's in your body, like moving around, the feeling, the sensation that comes from anxiety, and these thoughts are amplifying it. We talked a lot about that with the fear of flying. One thought comes, then another thought, then another thought, and another thought, and you've gone down this rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Spiral that can amplify the anxiety, and then you have really this vibrating feeling in your body. When you put it on the paper, I promise everyone, when you put it on the paper, something lowers that anxiety. Just putting it on the paper. I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact science, but something about getting it out of your head and getting to look at it, almost like it's this thought in your hand, and you're looking at it like, oh, you can give yourself that space to go, well, first of all, no wonder I felt so worked up about this. Sometimes when you look at that list, you'll see exactly why you were feeling so fearful. Well, look, you have a list of 27 fears of worst case scenario. Of course, that vibration will go through your body when you have those 27 fears repeatedly running their way through your brain. Putting them on the paper feels like you're almost removing yourself. I am not this person. I am not this thought. I am not this anxiety. This is the narrative going through my head that's causing that anxiety.
Well, another thing that you did with me that really, I felt a sense of freedom when you told me, which was, I told you my fear of crashing, right? And you're like, yeah, that could happen. Whereas everybody else that I said that to would say, oh, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. Don't worry about that. But you actually acknowledged my fear that, yes, the reality is that can happen. And there is something very freeing about hearing what my mind was thinking, that, okay, yes, that is true. That could happen. However, let's take a look at all of the reasons why it probably won't happen. There was something very liberating about that.
And I do think that acceptance is a huge part of it. So many people try to poo-poo, and they think that they're doing what's best for you. They think that they're helping you. And that's when I'm like, I'm not going to help you in a way that's like, let's read the statistics, and, you shouldn't feel like that, and, rational, or if we look at the numbers. No, because you do have that anxiety around it. So I don't feel that that's helping someone by saying, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. No, you do. And here's why. Why? Because your brain's doing its job. It's protecting you. It's saying, here's the worst case scenario. And that is absolutely true. It could happen. That is the worst case scenario, and that could happen. I don't know if you recall this, but I do recall when we were talking about that, and I said to you, and you're right, that is a reason to feel terror. But keep that terror in the right spot. You thinking about flying because you saw it on the movie screen is not the time to have terror. Reserve terror for when it's actually required. If that plane really was crashing, that's what requires terror.
Right.
But you don't want to be feeling that in your everyday life. So I feel like the way to get into that is like, okay, let's really list worst case scenario here because it could happen. And what is it right now? I think this is what it is right now too, with COVID happening and so many people losing their jobs, not being able to have their business open. It shoots them into this place of worst case scenario. I don't have a job. I can't make money. If I don't have money, I'm going to lose my house. Not only that, if I don't have money, I can't buy food. How am I going to feed myself and my family?
Right.
If you can't feed yourself and your family and you don't have shelter for yourself and your family, what's next? It really could be, we don't have enough food to eat. Are we going to die? Like, that's what your brain's thinking, trying to protect itself. And that's where I'm like, go there. Go there. That could happen. All of that could happen. And I had to do this myself. I could lose my house. I could lose my car. I could not have money to buy food. And then I had to stop and go, but will that really happen to me? The answer is it could. But then I also stop and go, who am I? And I'll never forget having this moment in this whole situation. And we've talked about this too, where I'm like, but who are you, Jeannie?
Right.
You're the boss.
Yeah, I am.
Things done, right? That's what I said too. I'm like, who am I? Have I ever been the girl who, doesn't go and do any sort of work to get the bills paid, no matter how different from what I currently do? Like, I would go wash dishes to pay bills. I would go clean people's floors to pay bills. That's the type of person I am.
Yeah. I'm that same type of person. And you're right. I think this is a time when you really kind of have to, it's a gut check. It's a gut check for everybody, because those fears are very, very real.
So real.
And I love that, because I think we do. I think we need to ask ourselves, all right, gut check time. What are we made of? What can we do? What do we have in front of us? What can we use right now?
And I do feel the best way to do that is to walk into the fear first. Walk into that fear and say, what am I thinking? What is the worst case scenario that's running through my brain that's really causing this fear? Chances are, because of the way your brain works, it's death. I'm not going to have enough money to eat. I'm not going to have enough money to pay the bills. What am I going to do then when I don't have anywhere to live or any food to eat? You've got to acknowledge that that's what your brain's trying to figure out for you, how to stay alive, how to take care of yourself and your family. And that's what's causing stress, anxiety, whatever's going on right now. And you just walk right into that. List out, like we were talking, list out what could happen, what's the worst case scenario. And when you're looking at it face on, and this is what I want to ask everybody, that's when you say, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? Am I really the person that would succumb to this? And I think most of us then can really find our inner strength and move from that place of, I'm afraid of what could happen, I'm afraid of the unknown, into, I'm the person that's going to take care of this. I'm the person who's going to take care of me. I'm the person who's going to take care of my family. I'm the person that's going to figure it out.
Yeah, because we're all in it together. That gave me a lot of, a sense of peace, kind of knowing that it wasn't just me. It was other people who were in this together. And there's some strength in numbers that I thought, all right, if we all pull together, we can do this. Because truthfully, our success in this whole thing lies on every single one of us.
Exactly.
So, okay, so there's writing things down. What are some other tips?
Okay, so the biggest question I always get is like, how do I change it? And I'm like, don't be too quick to change it. Acknowledge that, you know what, my fears are valid. Like we said, when we talked about the fear of flying, the fear of the plane crashing is valid. Is it likely? Not really. But is it possible? Yeah. So don't try to tell yourself, like, this isn't a reason to be afraid. Don't try to compare yourself to other people. Well, their situation is worse than mine. Like, it doesn't matter if you're drowning in 8 feet of water or 2 feet of water right now. If you feel like you're drowning, of course you're panicked.
Yes.
Get it all out on paper. When you have given yourself space and you're not trying to rush to get to a different story, that's when I say, tell your success story. Write your success story. Your story about quarantine doesn't have to be the story about how you lost it all. It can be the story about how you redirected, how you rebuilt. It can be a story of victory, even if it doesn't feel like it now. So the 2 ways I do that If it feels completely unbelievable to write a victory story, what I tell my clients to do, write your gratitude every day.
Mm.
I
That's
want people
great.
to go straight into fear, look at their fears, and I want you to start writing your gratitude every day. What can you be thankful for? And like you were saying, we're all in this together. Look around you. Look what people are doing for other people at this time.
Yes.
And it can be so simple. Someone posted today about sharing someone's business page. Okay. Like share someone's business page, get them out there, get them known, buy a gift card, tip a little bit extra when you pick up curbside from the
Right.
restaurant. Just all these things to be thankful for. You know what I'm most thankful for? The fact that I'm stuck at home. I was able to bring home a foster puppy.
Yes.
I know. I'm like obsessed too. I've had this, well, he's not a puppy. He's a 3-year-old lab pit bull mix. He's 75 pounds.
Oh
He
my
is the
gosh.
joy of my day. If this didn't happen, I'm on the go every week. I'm flying somewhere. I'm doing something. I'm not home. I got to
Yeah.
have this wonderful dog who today is going to meet his potential forever family.
Yay.
You know, so it's just like looking at those things of where can I find joy in the day? How can I make this a story I want to tell in 20 years?
I think that's, you know, that's self-empowerment, right? Self-actualization. If you think it, you can become it. And I love that, you know, face your fear, walk
Face it.
toward it, but to also walk towards your gratitude and walk toward your victory as well.
Yeah.
They have to go hand in hand, right?
Right. And that's why when you start walking toward the fear, you can walk through it and you can walk into your victory. Sitting back here, pretending like it doesn't exist, avoiding thinking about it, that's not going to allow you to walk through into victory. It's
Sure.
going to keep you stuck right here
Yeah.
with those
Right.
overwhelming feelings, which rightfully so are overwhelming. It's just a matter of when you're ready. And we talked a lot about this too. You have to be ready. When you're ready to walk through it, when you stop saying, I can't look at it, I don't want to think about it, and you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
One step at a time into the fear.
Yeah. I love that. That really helped me a lot. That was very cathartic for me to do that. So, okay. So we're going to face our acknowledge gratitude, write our things down. What else?
Gratitude. Write your story of victory. That's my big one is, I believe a lot in manifestation.
Okay.
So, basically my morning routine, this is what I get up and do. I get up and I write how I'm feeling. I write what I'm thinking. So how am I feeling this morning? If I'm feeling joyful, why? Oh, because I woke up to this beautiful puppy face. I'm excited to take a walk with him. The sun's going to shine. I'm going to lay by the pool. All of those things, the thoughts pour out. If it's anxiety, I write. I'm worried about if I'm going to get the schedule I want for next month, if I'm going to have a flight to take, you know, all of these different things, or what's going to happen in the future. I write it out. And I'm like, okay, there it is. I'm looking at it. And then I flip myself over to gratitude. I write 5. Sometimes it ends up being 10 because I just get going, but I'm like minimum 5 things I'm grateful for. And then I write my 10 goals. Those are what keep me focused on the future and moving forward. So that even when I'm feeling a little fear, I know what I'm moving toward.
Yeah.
And the goals can be anywhere from something in your life to something in my personality. You know, they've been different ones over the years, but in the repetitive, I write them every day so that I'm facing them, looking at them, concentrating on them. So I really want to know where I'm going. You know, like we're walking.
And have a roadmap.
But like, why are we walking into fear? We're not just walking in to wander around in it. Like we're going somewhere. That's why we're walking in, so that we can get over to point B.
You're making anxiety, the management of anxiety, a very active process. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not just we all feel anxious and oh my gosh, what do we do with it? You're making it a very active process. And I love that because it really works. I mean, it's really powerful what you're saying. And I love the fact that it's an action to, mm-hmm. you know, and that we have control over it. I think that's another thing is that sometimes we think we don't have control over our anxiety, and we may or we may not. We have the ability to acknowledge whatever is coming at us, but ultimately we have control over how we're going to feel over anything, right?
I have control of my reaction.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really how I started to look at anxiety. Things are going to trigger me. I'm going to have anxiety. I don't ever promise to cure anxiety. Why? Because there isn't a cure. I still get anxiety. Me, the person who coaches other people through anxiety, I still get anxiety. The difference now is that I can process it so quickly and get moving again that it doesn't paralyze me like it did years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not laying in bed. I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm not doing things to try to avoid it. I'm like, oh, here it is. Anxiety showed up today. Fear showed up today. All right, here we go. Like, am I going to carry it with me in a purse? Am I going to sit down and write about it? What am I going to do with anxiety today? How long do I want it to be here?
Depends on the purse.
Some days it comes with me in the purse. It does.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, the one thing that you also talked about with me was talking to yourself more than you listen to yourself. Yeah. Explain that a little bit, because that was also very, very helpful.
So this is the science that I do understand. Your brain has its natural reaction to keeping you alive. That's its job. That is completely acceptable, and you want it to happen. You want your brain to say, like, hey, this could be dangerous, and you don't want to do it. If someone told me to go jump out of a plane without a parachute, I want my brain to be like, that's stupid. Yeah. Right? Nope, not going to happen. That's your brain's job. So in order to, oh my goodness, Jeannie, I just started talking and I forgot exactly what I was answering.
We're talking about talking to yourself.
Is that? Why do I talk to myself? Got you. Because my brain has a job to talk to me to keep me safe. And so my brain's going to do that on default. I call it the peanut gallery. The peanut gallery is going to be back here talking. I need to use my prefrontal cortex to talk louder than the peanut gallery.
Okay.
I need to tell it. And my favorite way to do that is acknowledge it. So I may be a crazy person, right? Because I talk to myself, but that's exactly what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging, oh, hey, kind of like when we write them down. I'm acknowledging, oh, I see you, fears. I see you there. Yeah. I hear you, brain. I know why you're telling me that this could be crazy. Look at all the reasons. But then I make the decision from there.
Yeah.
Okay, right. We've got this narrative about what's going to happen or what could happen. I want to think with a different part of my brain that says, A, what do I want? Which is important why we know where we're going. What do I want? And B, like, what's the most logical thing here? This might be when statistics actually come into play, when you recognize what your brain's feeding you, all the fears that it's feeding you. And then you can look at those statistics and say, that's unlikely to happen though. Mm-hmm. Or then you can look at who you really are and say, I'm not likely to starve. I do have a family that loves me. I am willing to ask strangers for food if need be. Those types of things can come in from your prefrontal cortex at that time, your command center.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's right.
Yeah, you just overtalk the lower brain with the higher brain.
Yeah, well, it's really helpful though, because I oftentimes when I feel the anxiety coming as well, that's what I start doing is I start talking to myself out loud. Out loud, I'm talking to myself. And, but it helps me because I'm not only saying it, I'm hearing it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm trying to use as many different, you know, senses as I possibly can to get past the anxiety that's creeping up on me. Because I don't want it to control me. I want to control it. And that talking to myself really, really does help.
And that's exactly what I want you to do. Like, as your former coach, I don't want anybody to be dependent on me. Like, and that's exactly what I hope, that you took these tools and that you use them. You turned yourself into your own coach. Mm-hmm. Now, when your brain gets in a frenzy, I'm not stepping in to say, slow down, let's write out the narrative. Like, you now say that to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the goal here, is to coach yourself through, to get your brain coaching the survival part of your brain in order to direct it and keep you in control.
Yeah, you know, I think the whole coaching thing, you know, it's different than being a counselor, right? But there's so much power to it. So if anybody who's listening to this, if you've never had a coach, I would encourage you to do it if it's something that you think you could benefit from, because it really, there's a lot of power behind it. It's really a wonderful experience, and one that I'm just eternally thankful for. So is there anything else that you would like to tell people or let people know?
Oh, I could talk forever. You know that?
I know.
You know I love to talk, and I get you on the phone sometimes, and I'm like, ooh.
I know. I love that though.
Basically, measure your progress. You're not going for perfection here. Measure your progress. Like I was saying, I am not somebody who has cured my own anxiety. No, measure progress. I can process anxiety 100 times faster than I used to and get back to where I want to be intentionally. Like every day, it's not about doing better than someone else. It's not about being perfect. It's where was I yesterday? Am I going to do better today? Where was I last week? Can I do better this week? Having that type of intentional thought. And also, I just want to promise everyone this one exercise of writing your thoughts can change your life. Yeah, that one exercise, getting vulnerable with yourself. We've talked a little bit about vulnerability. I don't know if you want to get into that or if you want to save it for another time. But
no, it's okay. Go get into it. Let's go.
Vulnerability. And I talked to you about it one day, almost in my skincare routine. I used to not leave the house without makeup. If I'm being completely honest with people, I would take a shower at night maybe, and I would kind of pencil in my eyebrows a little and maybe cover up a couple splotches. I was so uncomfortable with my naked face, I had to put the mask on, even for myself. Like, think of how that works for a moment. I was putting on a little bit of makeup so that when I walked by the mirror at home, I didn't have to see my own face. When I decided to get serious about my skincare, it required stripping that off. It required looking at my face and saying, okay, like there's a spot that drives me insane that I hate seeing. I want that spot to go away. And this is part of my journey and how I met your sister, is coming in and saying like, this is the spot that makes me embarrassed to leave the house. This is the spot that gives me so much anxiety that I put on makeup in my own home.
Yeah.
What can we do about this spot? And then it was the process of bringing it to the surface in order to, what's the right word? Help me out. I don't want to like scrape it away. It's like we have to uncover that spot, and then we had to work on it. And it wasn't like this one-time magic fix, right? And that's how I feel about self-help too. That's how I feel about the exercises I give. Like, this isn't a one-time magic fix where you write it down once and everything's fine. It's like, okay, we come in, we strip it naked, you get very real about what's bothering you here. It's that spot. I keep pointing to this one because this is really the spot that was worked to be removed from my face. It's that sunspot. Okay, it's going to get more obvious before it gets less obvious. We're going to bring it to the surface before we start to do the abrasion technique to get it away. And that's how I feel about skincare, being vulnerable, getting naked, bringing it to the top. And that's how this inner self-help works too.
Well, you're right. It's not the skincare, like anything in life, exercise, whatever. It's not a one and done. Nothing in life is, can you do anything one time and expect to have results? I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything that can give you that. If there isn't, like, no.
Lottery tickets people try to buy all the time.
Yeah, but you're right. That's, I didn't really think of it that way, but I love that as far as the skincare, bringing the blemish or whatever you want to call it, the sunspot, to the surface, and then we eliminate it. That's the only way to do it, really, is to bring everything to the surface, face it, look at what you've got, analyze it, and get rid of it. I love that. That's a great place to end here. I think that's awesome. It's really tell everybody how they can learn more about you or get in touch with you.
So I'm very personable. I love to follow me on Instagram, Dana Basten on Instagram, and follow me, shoot me a DM. I answer my DMs the quickest. I am the Fear of Flight coach. You can reach me at fearoflightcoach@gmail.com. But seriously, follow me on Instagram, Dana Basten on Instagram. You can see a little bit about me, and then you can always go from there. If you want to shoot me a DM, you want to talk a little bit more about something, I'll respond on there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this with us. And I know that we will talk again because we have a lot that we can talk about.
Always.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.